I said, I'll kick off. There it is. So first, we all know each other on here. So I want to introduce Bella Linez to you. Bella's a graduate of Monmouth University. She's a communication a major. She has her own podcast while in undergrad on a radio station, hosting a podcast. And I think it's 3 years since you graduated?
Coming up on 2?
Yeah.
I graduated in 2022.
Yeah. So she's been very active in her major. And so Bella, I know her family, we've known her, I guess, since the kids were 5 years old. So James is 20, so about 15 plus years. So she's good peeps, very smart, knows her stuff well. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for her to help us out, facilitate this process. Everyone on here knows Mr. B, of course. And again, I think the nexus behind this is I was talking with Jim a couple weeks ago, and I said we should, because he has all these stories, like he talks about all of us. I will say this: if you share with Mr. B a secret over the years, he keeps it, because he would say, "I got stories," and blah, blah, blah. He knows things, and I always found that interesting. I'm like, man, Mr. B, you should share on a podcast some of the things that you know of us and how we are and all that stuff. He said, brother, I don't really have the strength or energy. So I said, well, what if we flipped it, and what if we do a podcast to really talk about our time with you? I mean, you're not going anywhere. And he supported it. He supported the idea, and here we are.
Yeah, so it's so nice to meet all of you guys. Like you said, I graduated from Monmouth in 2022. My major was radio and TV broadcasting under the communications umbrella. I started my podcast kind of like as a filler once I graduated and couldn't do college radio anymore. Typically, I do focus on music and pop culture, but I've loved hearing everything that Mr. Moore has to say about Mr. Boatwright, and everything that some of you who have reached out to me and shared your favorite memories and stories have said so far. So I'm really excited to kind of get this going and learn more, because he sounds like he was a great role model. My first thing that I would love for you guys to do is kind of introduce yourself, your occupation, job title, and your class.
What do? Mute yourself. We hear the game in the back.
All right, you got it.
And just so that you know, that is his actual name, Wadu.
And that's the only time anybody's been able to really tell him to mute himself, because he normally always has something to say.
Yes, whoever would like to go first.
Well, I'll go first. Steve Roberts, everybody call me Wadu. Class in 1992. I'm currently retired from Essex County Prosecutor's Office. Did some years with Newark PD. Now I'm currently working as a fraud investigator with Citizens Bank. And that's about it for in regards to occupation and stuff right now.
Dude,
but I still need a couple dollars, man.
I will take my money out of Citizens Bank very quickly.
Please do, because listen, man, it's easy to take.
Dude, I need to talk to you about my cases.
Can I get a PBA card?
All the time.
Well, I'll go next. Y'all are so funny that let me just say that. My name is Barbara Harmon-Francis. I am the newly Dr. Barbara Harmon-Francis, which it means a lot to me, because Dr. From the time that Mr. Boatwright met me, he told me I was going to earn a doctorate, and I looked at him and I told him, nah, because I didn't want to do all that reading. But he really planted seeds a long time ago.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm the Vice President of Student Success and Retention at Kane University, and I've been there for about 4 years, and I've been working in higher education, much to my surprise, for 25 plus years. So that's it. That's me.
Hey, dude, you gotta mute your line when you're not on.
All right, got you.
So I will go next. My name is Kyle Anderson. I'm class of 1991 TSC. And I'm presently Executive County Superintendent of Schools in Middlesex County. And came to know, I did send over something on my relationship with Mr. Boatwright and how I came to know him, because I was not from the EOF program, but I want to say an adopted member of Mr. Boatwright, and brought me in to help me out with a lot of the services that the EOF program provided.
Great.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Steffens, and I'm class of 1991. I am a senior account executive with Scholastic Incorporated, and I work across the state of Pennsylvania on the eastern portion, helping students to realize literacy and bring resources into the classroom and homes. And it's great to be here today to recognize Mr. Boatwright and all that he has done for not only myself, but so many of us. So thank you, James, for organizing us.
I can go next. My name is Sabrina Magliulo, the class of 2000, and I currently serve as the EOF director at New Jersey City University, which is really full circle for me. I was an EOF student at TCNJ, accepted to TSC, and then they changed the name that summer. And I remember going into Mr. Boatwright's office, like, how do you do this? And it's so humbling now that I'm like, wow, I'm in this same position in my own hometown in Jersey City. So,
Excuse me, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats. Yep.
I guess I'll go next. My name is Dr. Karriem Salaam. I'm a board certified adult and child and adolescent psychiatrist, medical director of adolescent services at Friends Hospital in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, more commonly known as Philadelphia. I'm a clinical assistant professor of psychiatry and behavioral health at Drexel University College of Medicine. And I'm a proud alum of Trenton State College, class of 93, EOF summer 88. And EOF was just transformative for my life, and by extension, the lives of my wife and children. So, you know, like Biggie said, I went from ashy to classy, and Mr. Boatwright was largely responsible for that. He was like my Statue of Liberty or my Harriet Tubman to educational freedom. So originally from Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. And I just like we all do, I just love this man. I really do. He played a pivotal role in all of our lives. Amen. So we can't repay the debt we owe him. And we love the brother. So I'm known for having a difficult time dropping the mic, so I'm just going to stop abruptly.
Stacy must be muted because Stacy is cracking up.
That's because it still makes me giggle every time Karriem introduces himself.
Yeah.
Like, okay, man, that's the man that was late to work every single shift at the student center. Wow.
You had to take it there.
I did, sorry. So I'm Dr. Stacy Holland. I am a proud alum of the class of 92. Graduated a lot of people on the screen. I am currently the executive director of Elevate 215. That is a nonprofit that invests in district and charter schools with the goal of improving the number of quality schools in Philadelphia for Black and Brown children. We are an organization that advocates for quality funding, access for families who don't traditionally have access to high quality schools, and just bringing together a vision on behalf of the mayor and the school board. I would say there is no Dr. Holland without James Boatwright. And he is just all the things and then some. And I will leave it there.
Did everyone go already?
Yeah, Marvin, just you.
I believe so. It's just me, right? So good to see everybody. Really is some good people. Marvin Adames, Trenton State College, class of 1994. So was there from 90 to 94, spent some good times with all of you and a lot of bad times with James, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here minding my business.
He sold me many bean pies back in the day and probably did the same to many of you, right? Um, well, I had made mention in a short message to Bella that Boatwright was really a father figure to me.
Man.
You know, my parents were teenagers when I was born, and they divorced when I was about 5 years old. And although my father says that he was around, he really wasn't around. And so my father figures, you know, I couldn't really look at my uncles and grandfathers because they weren't doing the very best that they could do for themselves and for the families, and weren't the great representation that men could be for younger men. So I had some positive figures, but when I came on to college, Boatwright was more than a director for the EOF program. He was a great friend, he was a great mentor, but he was a father figure to many of us, but very much to me. He gave me lots of advice, life advice, you know, advice about dating, you know, and all kind of just like a real big brother, real like an uncle, but really, really like a father figure to me. And so left college in 4 years. You know, Barbara and I, Sabrina, we're in higher ed, and you know, we talk about 5 years, 6 years. You know, when I went to college, I didn't know 5 or 6 years. You go and you finish up in 4, and I did that. Went on to law school, Rutgers Law School thereafter. Was the third youngest in my class of 250. So it was a challenge going right into law school, right from the projects, basically. You know, still living in Newark, and so Karriem was from Wellsburg, right? If I remember correctly, right? And I was from the South Ward, living in the projects, going on to law school, not having much, and you know, and making it happen. You know, with the encouragement that I had from individuals who were supportive of me, Boatwright being one of them, and clerked for a couple of criminal law judges thereafter in Essex County, Newark. Was an Essex County prosecutor. Got to see Wadu as a Newark police officer.
I remember.
And then later on, he came over to the Essex County prosecutor's office as one of our investigators, detectives, and made his way up the chain there. So he did real well for himself. Left there, was the chief municipal prosecutor for the city of Newark under Cory Booker. And then he gave me the opportunity to be on the bench, was a Newark Municipal Court judge for almost 9 years, still hanging out with Wadu, my man. Wadu and I, in fact, when we were on campus, he had a single, so his wall was right next to mine. If I hit the wall, you know, I'd tell him to stop snoring all the time, you know. He was on the other side of the wall, so we got to see each other quite a bit. And then we got to see each other when I was prosecutor and judge quite a lot, right? Wadu. And you also, I don't know if you're still in Wellsburg now, but you had a place over there with loud music for your parties and stuff like that, right? I remember those parties. And
you know this being recorded, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw you all under the bus. I'm throwing everybody under the bus. So and then I had the opportunity with our good friend Lamont Repillette, Dr. Lamont Repillette, Rep as we all call him, took an opportunity at Kane University, brought individuals like Barbara and myself over. And so I left the practice of law to do something which I thought was much more in line with my passion and my vision for change, is to work with young people in a more positive way. Working with individuals or trying to work with them in the criminal justice system was just too difficult. You know, once you hit somebody in the head and you're stuck on that web, it's very difficult to get you off of that. But here I was now working with students at the university that looked like us, that had the same kind of background as us, to trying to push them up and make certain that they succeed, have the opportunity to graduate, move on to greater things like all of us. So, James from the hood, from Trenton, Mifa kids down the street from you over there on Stuyvesant, right? So we all come from tough places and what have you, and have had the opportunity through our education to see great things. And so I attribute, a lot of my success to Trenton State College, to our EOF program, and certainly to Dr. Boatwright. So currently Assistant VP for Student Retention, and I'm also the Dean of Students at Kane. So thank you.
Before Bella kicks it off, guys, I do want to make acknowledge Kyle and Stacy. They technically aren't EOF students, but it just seemed like, Stacy, I've always said this, it just seemed like you've been an EOF student your entire time. Kyle, the same thing. But that was Jim. Jim fostered non-EOF students at times more than us. He's been supportive. He would advocate. Doesn't matter who you were, white, Chinese, Latino, Latina, doesn't matter. Jim was always a big advocate of folks who looked like us. And even the folks who didn't look like us, didn't matter. That man would go to bat if it was for right cause. Jim was right there. So Stacy and Kyle, although they're not EOF, they're Jim Boatwright students.
I'm technically plus 20.
No, we were poor, Stacy. We were poor. You were, your peoples had monies. We didn't.
Man, this is why we not free. That is not true. Mr.
We were
Boatwright
straight up jack
activated-
poor. Like, look at Kyle. Look how light-skinned Kyle is. We know he had money.
that have been dormant for years
Hey.
in order to get me in.
While we're talking about Dr. Holland, she'll never tell you, but I'm going to tell you. Dr. Holland got her doctorate from the University of Pennsylvania.
All right.
Which is not a state college like Trenton State College.
Wait, I got one up over you. Dr. Holland, before she
it happens to be Ivy League. So
no, Karriem, I got one up on you.
I'm 1 second. I'm basement classy. She penthouse classy.
No, bro. She did a fast track master's after college at Columbia in 1 year.
Listen, this is the reason why I'm drinking out of a jar because I'm broke.
She
Like,
did
Karriem,
a master's program in 1 year.
Still broke.
So she got two Ivy degrees.
Yes, that's my point.
So her being on this Zoom call is all about street credibility is really what it's about, right? She's just trying to get the street cred.
Hey, we can't forget she was also probably one of the youngest trustees over at Trenton State
Oh my
College,
God,
right?
Marvin,
TCNJ, right?
This is a Mr.
That's
Boatwright
Right.
memory lane.
She was
I
a
know,
board
but
of
see,
trustee member.
This is how Mr. Boatwright connected us, right?
Yes.
Because Stacy was one of my mentors. Even though she wasn't a formalized mentor, it was like, no, you see that sister right there? You need to follow her footsteps. You need to go and study with her. It was her, it was you, and there was a lot more women who are upperclassmen. You look at a Kim, and Kim was one of the tutors sitting out there making sure that we did our library hours. He connected us all in. And because at that time we had something special. I've talked to a lot of the current students when I go back for different events, and I'm like, wait a minute, y'all don't look out for each other? And that was one of the things that we did. That, all they had to do, we have students coming on campus to visit for that overnight to see if college is for them and they're from neighborhoods like ours. Sure, they can come and stay in our room. You're going to go get peer mentoring. And the thing about it was that he was so connected into every aspect of our lives on campus that he knew about stuff just as soon as you finished doing it, especially if you wasn't supposed to do it. It had already gotten to him because we had a bunch of snitches and the EOF. But it was good because then he would check you real quick. And if you wasn't on track, he'd get you right back on track. So I appreciate having people like Stacy, because it was even us going to honor Dr. Boatwright, and I had just started my doctoral program, and it was certain advice that Stacy gave me in that little bit of time we had out there in that cold, kissing and hugging everybody, that got me through my doctoral program. Amen. So it just continues because of one man, one man.
So like Barbara said, Boatwright was like Black Santa Claus. He knew when you were sleeping. He knew when you were awake. He knew when you was in the library, and he also knew when you late.
He definitely knew where everybody was at.
We would go off the rails.
Yeah, well, he definitely knew where everybody was at. Especially I was in court. I don't even think none of y'all ever been to Trenton Court inside the school. I was there and I was lying like a mug. Like, yo, I ain't do it. Boatwright's like, you didn't do it? It's like, no. He's like, okay, I'm gonna ride with you, but you did it. But we going to court anyway. And, you know, we just had some fun. Like we say, if you tell him something, he's gonna keep it. And we all had to look out for each other. And that was the best thing on that campus. It was only a few of us, but we knew everybody. Everybody knew each other, and we helped out each other. So that was a good part. That's why this right here is good. And then when we get on campus for whatever affairs we do go to, we enjoy ourselves lying and telling the truth just a little bit, but the lies are stretched out like crazy. Especially my boy Salaam, he kept that secret when he drunk that juice I gave him, that water. We just still remember that a little bit right there.
You got to watch those drinks from Wadu.
One
of the reasons I came to know Mr. Boatwright was because he would stop by our football practice because he was coming to check on Doss, and I think might have been Gilbert, maybe. I think he might have been EOF too.
Yeah, Gil.
And so a lot of people didn't realize that I went to community college for a year before I came down. And one of the things that I really knew I needed some mentorship, because when you're a transfer student, you don't get any of the services that the incoming freshmen get. You don't get that because I think they look at you as like you're an experienced student. So I set myself up with a very challenging schedule, and I was struggling my first year. And it was an 87 when I got there. The whole campus was overcrowded. So everybody was either in a triple or you got stuck in a lounge. And I got put in a lounge with 3 upperclassmen, and then another upperclassman that was homeless just came in and moved in with us. And, you know, the extent of their mentorship was
Dornell and Big Mike.
What brand 40 I wanted to drink on Thursday night, you know, like, and I was struggling. I was struggling because I wanted to play ball and I didn't know what to do. And when Mr. Boatwright came by the practice, I made sure that I bumped into him on campus at some point and introduced myself to him. And I told him, I said, listen, right now I'm failing a couple of classes because I don't know where to go. Like when you come in as a transfer, they don't really give you that like orientation that a freshman or an EOF student would get. So I remember he set me up. I was failing Spanish, and he set me up in one of the trailers, and Jasmine began tutoring me. And I remember Mrs. Perkins walking by, and she just looked at me and, who are you? You know, why are you using our tutors? And I just said, I'm student Mr. Boatwright told me to come here. And then I guess she must have spoken to him at some point. And I was able to get tutoring services for the semester so that I could, stay on campus. And I struggled my first 2 semesters, but it was my visits with him and coming in and talking to me and just like encouraging me to stick it out. And then, when I was trying to live on campus for free, it was all the EOF students that put me up for a couple of weeks here and there. I would go to Tom's room. I'd go to Raheem and Wadu's room. I would go to any one of y'all. I knew y'all would take me in.
That's real. But that's a part of like the community building that like helps people persist to graduation.
Yep.
And a lot of my research was on that, about that social wealth that we have. It doesn't, and the navigational wealth that we have within these programs, and why I think they need to be duplicated, but duplicated the right way throughout the United States, because this is how we graduate. Wadu cracks on me all the time, but Wadu slept on our floor, I think his senior year, your last semester or something, and we was mortified with that. We was like, yo, you need a place? Come on through. Because it wasn't even a question. It was just like, this is family. You make sure family is taken care of. And so I just really, that whole taking care of each other and Perk, I'm not surprised, Ms. Perkins. Perky Perk is what we called her back in the day.
Yeah.
Perky Perk would give you a look, but it was just, that's the way we work with one another. We helped each other, or we knew about you. We might not have had to know you, but we knew who your name was. And that was a part of our social capital we had on campus.
Mm-hmm. So could you guys maybe further tell me more stories about what Mr. Boatwright did with EOF and how he kind of brought you guys all together, as you started to go off to, as you started to say, but more just about how he made you all better students, better people, and brought you guys together through EOF and just kind of his career and work with the program.
So I'm going to jump in because while James is joking me that I'm not EOF.
I thought you was EOF. You was in the program.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Which is a subset of EOF. It was a dormant code.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did was, I did not get into Trenton State College. And I crashed a minority recruitment luncheon because, I had a really tenacious mama. And she was like, you're going to that school. That's the only school we can afford. And you're going to that school.
Mm-hmm.
And that was with her working 2 jobs, me working 3 jobs.
Mm.
And so I met Mr. Boatwright. Actually, Dave Morales was the recruiter.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm going to introduce you to this guy, Mr. Boatwright. So I'm saying, Mr. Boatwright, please, I'm a good kid. You don't know me, but I work really hard. My grades aren't great, but I can do it. I can do it. Please help me. And he was like, who are you? And I was like, sir, please help me. My mom said I got to get into school. And bless his heart. He said, I'm looking at your grades and your SAT score. I had one of the worst SAT scores. It was like, how you get 400 points for your name and I only got 700. He was like, I have never seen this, but I'm looking at you and I see possibility. So I'm going to let you in by reactivating this one program. So really, I would not have gotten into school had he not done that.
Wow.
Which is why he put me in the EOF program. He's like, you need people. And listen, God protects babies and fools. And so, the most people, school was really hard for me. I literally just struggled through the whole thing. So I was taking calculus, and this is just a snippet of who he is.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking calculus and I was failing abysmally. I had a 13 average. And Mr. Boatwright would stand outside my calculus class on a Tuesday morning and wait for me to come out because he knew I was crying to class. I cried through class and I'd come out crying. And he would just be standing there every Tuesday. I was like, come on, girl, we're going to tutor it. I gotta help. He's like, you are going to get through this. So we get to the end of the class and he meets with me and the professor and he tells the professor, look, this girl is not going to solve equations for a living. Can you just give her a D? Just give her a D. She will never show up again. I was like, I promise I'll never step foot on your doorstep again. I just got to get a D. And we're walking out. He's holding my hand and kind of rubbing my back because I'm just like, I feel like such a failure. He's like, Stacy, your purpose in life is not to solve equations. You will be fine. Like, okay, Mr. B. So I just think his foresight, he saw us and who we were before we saw ourselves. And I can honestly say this, I've not made a professional move without that man's input. I mean, I got into Columbia because of him, not because I applied. He made a call. I was going off to law school, got rejected again. And he's like, girl, you are supposed to serve the people. I'm like, I don't want to serve no people. I don't want to serve no bad kids. He was like, no, you are going to grad school. It's like, okay. So he made this call and talked to Dr. Person, who was the head of that program, and said, I have a student for you, and I'm gonna ask you, you take a chance. And that's how I got in, right? And then I just happened to find he was right. I love education. I love fighting for kids that look like me. I love pushing systems and changing policy and showing them that they can do it and creating systems that know that they can do it. But it really is all because of him. Not many people can say that. So the last thing I'm going to say is one of the best days, the best. No, I finished my doctorate at the beginning of COVID. So I was home by myself. My mother had just died. I literally was in the house by myself defending. And so I didn't have a chance to do the celebrations or all the things. So as soon as the actual book came, I called Pat and I said, listen, I have a gift for Boat. Can we do something in the backyard? And there's only two people that showed up on my defense call, Mr. Boat and Pat and my brother. So fast forward a couple of months, I call Pat and like, Pat, I have to give Boat something. She's like, okay, we're going to figure it out. We're going to get in the backyard. Everybody be safe, whatever. And so he was the person I gave the dissertation to. I was like, this is your dissertation. 30 plus years later, this is you. It is not because I did anything magical. It's not because at the end of the day, I was super smart. It was because you saw something that I never knew existed. And you nurtured it over 30 years. So I give this to you with the deepest of humility and gratitude. And he just kind of sat there and looked at me. It was like, you still almost failed calculus. You still failed calculus. Right? Yes, I get it.
But she won't tell you, but I will. She is super smart.
Yeah, she is.
So listen, if you don't mind, please indulge me. I took the time to write this, so I want to read it. And it's one of my most poignant memories of Mr. Boatwright. My favorite memory of Mr. Boatwright, aka Mr. B, was the patience, kindness, and empathy he showed me following a difficult breakup. Mind you, I was still a teen at the time. He listened, helped me sit with what felt at the time like catastrophic pain, reassured me life and humanity did not end with this relationship, and that I would learn, love, move on, and most importantly, graduate. Mr. B always seemed a little more understanding and perhaps empathic with the brothers because he knew many of us were fatherless, and he generously provided some of the guidance we lacked yet desperately needed. I think what seemed like favoritism, the sisters found especially annoying. I also think the brothers caused him more headaches, gray hairs, sleepless nights, and academic probation letters than the sisters.
Yeah, I did.
Thankfully, Mr. B never ran out of grace and mercy for us. Among his greatest pride is the excellent fathers many of us have become. For many of us, he was an excellent model of manhood, and for that we hold deep and abiding gratitude. Mr. B, you are uniquely special, generously loving, and eternally patient, which is why we love you.
Amen. Hey, Karriem, tell your wife that was a nice one. Tell her thank you for that. She did a great job.
No, it was actually Chat GPT.
Spot on, Dr. Salaam. Spot on.
Hey, Kim, you've been quiet.
Well, and wait, I'll let Kim
I'm
speak.
shy.
In her defense, Kim was like, this ain't happening. I'm not partaking. I'm not participating. I texted her. I said, girl, please stop playing around.
No, I wrote up something for Bella as well. And my most fond memory, those of you, you probably don't know, but Stacy, I'm with you. I was trying to chime in. I was plus 20 also.
Oh.
Haters gonna hate, but nevertheless, my father was military, my mother was military. We lived outside of the base. I was an only child and am an only child and first generation college. So going to college was a huge milestone for me as well as my family. And if anybody ever met my father, he did not play. So something was arranged on campus to do some type of meet and greet. I don't remember what the program was. Nevertheless, my father had the opportunity to meet Mr. Boatwright. And as you well know, he's a military man as well. Well, they went off to the side, and I don't know what the benefit for me that day was, but I do know that the benefit was long term because Mr. Boatwright sealed the deal. We got in the car. My dad said, "You're going to Trenton State College." And before they left, I remember them shaking hands and Mr. Boatwright telling my father that I'm going to take care of her. She's in good hands. Trust me. He gave him his phone number, and you could see the weight of the world was just lifted from my father. So fast forward, I spoke about the times when we would see Mr. Boatwright shuffling across the campus. You know, that walk, that Spike Lee walk, you would see him across the campus. And you just walked a little straighter because you never knew when Mr. Boatwright was going to show up. And yes, everything that you said about him always getting information, who you were talking to, like, Mr. Boatwright know this. But I had the opportunity to work in the EOF office as a peer mentor, as Barbara had indicated. And some of you may not know, I worked at Burlington County College. I too worked in higher ed for 16 years. 8 of those years I worked in the EOF program and also served as the EOF director at the college. So those years have been the most meaningful in my education career. And I owe it all to Mr. Boatwright and that team that he built at Trenton State College, because if it were not for them, I don't know that I would have wanted to emulate what I had received when I was going to school. So I'm thankful for Mr. Boatwright and all that he is and all that he has been to me and my family. And being first generation, I have a daughter who has graduated from college. I'm still working on my son. He's got 3 years.
Roll Tide, roll Tide.
But you know, we broke that cycle. So I owe it all to you, Mr. Boatwright, and I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, roll.
Can I just simply ask Sabrina to share some words? Because Sabrina is a long time friend of mine, my wife's friend, sorority sister, line sister, and came a little bit after us to what was probably just becoming TCNJ. And so she's an EOF director now. And she was with the EOF program at the TCNJ after she graduated. But Stacy, Sabrina also went to UPenn, but got her master's there. She's working on a doctorate. So I just wanted to give some love to Sabrina, ask her to share some things.
Marvin, you were in my head. I was ready to unmute myself. So I'm just sitting here listening to all of you, and I'm thinking to myself, like, my time didn't overlap with all of you, but your stories are so similar. And to me, that's just a testament of what Mr. Boatwright has done, right? Like, we're like, I think about it like that whole family tree, and we're generations removed in a sense, but it's the same kind of stories. When I sit around with my friends that we were all at TCNJ at the same time, it's very similar. And as Stacy, as you were speaking, and Kim, thought of a lot of memories, you know, and I share this with my students now, where my first memory of Mr. Boatwright, that militant man, standing in front of the room, I think it was one of those accepted college days or one of those admitted students days. And I remember sitting in the back with my mom and being really upset. I was just like, I always tell my students, probably sucking my teeth, rolling my eyes. I'm not coming here, decided I don't like this man. And it was just because he represented the structure that I felt like I didn't want to do that summer. And I remember being dramatic, saying, I just been in school, 13 years, counting kindergarten, and now you're going to tell me I have to give up 5 weeks under these rules that this man is presenting to us. And I remember my mom being so excited, like, yeah, no, that same trust that I think Kim mentioned, knowing that this man is going to take care of my daughter, and being a first-generation college student, going far away from home. And I always tell students, I never in a million years knew that that man would be somebody who's been an instrumental piece of my life in every step of the way. So one of the memories I have, fast forward, when I was finishing up at TCNJ, was I came back from studying abroad. It was my senior year, the first semester, and I was out there. Nobody was asking me the question what I'm doing with the rest of my life. As soon as I stepped back foot in the States, everybody's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's like, I don't know what I want to do. So I went to a info session about grad school. And to be honest with you, I went because it was a 1-year program in counseling. I knew I wanted to give back to my community and go into counseling. And I didn't pay attention to the other details. It was a 1-year program. I was sold. I came back to his office super excited, and I showed him the flyer. He's like, University of Pennsylvania. He's like, go ahead, Ivy League. And I was like, wait, hold up. What's going on here? So then that whole doubt cycle, and that's one of the common themes, I think, with Mr. Boatwright. Someone else said it before, he sees what's within you before you can see it. And I've had the privilege of not only seeing that as a student, but also as a professional. So the whole UPenn thing, he's like, I got scared once he said that. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. That whole fear of failure. He's like, do you want to live your life always wondering what's the worst that can happen? You don't get in, but at least you tried. So I put it in. I got in, full 1-year program, went out to Philly, said I was coming back home to Jersey City, ended up working in Philadelphia in a substance abuse clinic, worked in Camden in a middle school, and then made my work back up north. And so I did clinical work for a while, school-based youth services programs. And then when I think it was actually Barbara's position, when Barbara left TCNJ as a program specialist, that's when I saw that position was open. And said, you know what? I really enjoyed when I was working as a therapist in the high school setting. I really enjoyed speaking to students from similar backgrounds about their opportunities and opening up their eyes to what's possible, because so many times people tell you that it's not possible, right? Because of who you are, how much money you have. And applied for that job. And I was able to work that. And that was one of the greatest times in my career, because I overlapped with the last 2 years of Mr. Boatwright's tenure before he retired. And I learned so much from him. I remember just all the wisdom every time I would run into his office, and so many really instrumental moments in my career, dealing with people and the microaggressions. And, people look at me, they don't know where to place me. They look at my last name. And I remember him always teaching me, you're going to figure out how you're going to use that to help the people that you care the most about. So I would sit in conversations with professors who were like, these kids talking about the EOF students. And I'd be like, oh, and I would feel fireball, and I would think, what will Mr. Boatwright do? What will Mr. Boatwright do? I need to make sure that I, don't fit into stereotypes. And I'll just sit there, peace calmly. I don't know where I got the strength. I always say it's him, right? And say, oh, that's interesting, because my experience as a Latina woman from Jersey City when I was in EOF was totally different. And then they would just like change their whole story, So those are the kind of moments that I always think about. And, when I felt then when there were people who were really jealous, for lack of a better word, of what I was doing, and him continuing to give me more responsibilities. And I'm saying, like, she's newest counselor, why is she getting this? And he was setting me up to be a director before I even knew I wanted to be a director, truthfully. For me, it was always about the population I was serving and being able to be there, and my background as a therapist. But yeah, that's something that I tell them all the time. I have so many students from when I was teaching at TCNJ in their counseling program, to high schools, that I've spoken about Mr. Boatwright, and they will never know Mr. Boatwright. They've never met Mr. Boatwright, but they know who Mr. Boatwright is. So I always tell him, we talk about his legacy, and I think of it as a legacy of love, because everything he's done has always been out of love. And it's going to continue to live through each of us and those that we touch, and keep going for years to come when we're not even on this earth.
Wow. A legacy of love. That's amazing.
That
Very
was
well said.
Yeah.
Bella,
And
oh, I have to get ready to go to this graduation party, but if I can steal some of the thunder and read my statement a little bit, because I would really want him to hear it as well. So let me just pull this up 1 second. And
Is this the one you were telling about Denise wrote for you?
yes, yes. I went with the GPT chat, just like
Karriem.
just like Karriem. So, hello, Bella. As per James Moore's request, I'm sharing my information in advance of the call with Mr. Boatwright. Thank you for so much for agreeing to moderate this call, as I'm sure there will be many fond memories being shared. I go through my job title, but I'll go down where one of my favorite memories was playing basketball with Mr. Boatwright and Dr. Lonesome in the recreation center. They were two legends on the campus, but they made sure that we knew that they could ball. I transferred to Trenton State College, so I missed out on the counseling / mentoring services that an incoming freshman or an EOF student would receive, like tutoring. I remember Mr. Boatwright stopping by my football practice to check on some of the EOF students on the team. I thought he was somebody's father. He noticed me at practice, but I didn't get an opportunity to introduce myself. I knew I needed a mentor-like figure at school, so I made sure I said hello to him the next time I saw him. That hello turned into an interview of who I was trying to become. Getting choked up. During the initial conversation, I confided in Mr. Boatwright that as a transfer, I struggled with my residency because I was stuck in the lounge with 4 upperclassmen who were schooling me on the party life. I also struggled with creating an academic schedule so that I could keep up with, and I was flunking Spanish. Mr. Boatwright became a mentor to me on campus and made it possible for me to use one of the EOF tutors for Spanish. And one of the most impactful days I ever experienced was the Men of Color Symposium program that Mr. Boatwright, that I participated in because of Mr. Boatwright. And if any of you were there, I know Wadu was there, but it was a Saturday that we had to commit, and we learned more about our own self and stereotypes.
Yeah.
So later in life, I would call on Mr. Boatwright for guidance that all men need, albeit family life or my professional / political career. There, we would learn that we have more in common than we ever thought we did. I've always cherished the impromptu phone calls, usually on my part, that would last for hours. Mr. Boatwright's deep, robust laughs would always paint me a picture of him smiling so long and so hard that his cheeks were sore. Time marches on and it pauses for nobody, but I've learned from Mr. Boatwright that it's what we do and who we touch in those moments that make it so special. I believe that Mr. Boatwright's heart is not full. It can't be, because it's overflowing.
Amen. Kyle, thank you for that, brother.
Yes, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Kyle, the only thing I would say, I mean, you nailed it. You really, it's from your perspective, but you really should just let it go. Look at what I'm doing, Karriem. Just get it all cut off, son. Just get it all cut off. You're trying to hold on to something that it doesn't fit who you are. You are.
That's it. That's it. The gray's kicking in.
Off.
There was one other trivia that Mr. Boatwright ever shared to you guys, his connection and how close he was to slavery.
Yeah.
Because of the age of when his father or his grandfather, I can't remember, but I believe that I want to say his father, but I thought it was almost impossible, when he told me about it. But I think his father or his grandfather was born 9 years after slavery. And his father had him when he was in his upper 60s, and that's why. But he had that close of connection to slavery.
The one thing,
Learn something every day. I didn't know that.
yeah, I didn't
Wow.
know that either, Kyle.
Thank you for sharing that, Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle, that was very important. I want to add, Kyle, before you leave, because I think this is important. I think one of his greatest successes, one of his greatest failures, was the summer that we went away in '87, when he decided he wanted to take a group of us away in the mountains.
Before you get there, James, you got to go back to when he used to have the meetings. Before that, he used to get those skits before the camp. And he used to use some of his targets and punching us around and carrying them.
Yeah.
Now go to the camp.
So Kim, I was about to ask, because didn't you go away with us?
Yes, Kim was in.
Kim, you were there.
Kim and Stacy was in EOF.
Oh, Stacy was there too?
Yeah.
So to me,
Summer of '87.
one of the greatest failures was him taking us away for, what was it, 3 days?
Three long days, bro.
3 long days in the woods. Then we're up in the woods. I don't think anybody used the bathroom to do number 2.
No.
When the bus gets back to campus, we all leave luggage behind and everything at parks. We run straight to the bathroom. That summer, that still sticks in my head, because that bus pulled up to the hall and everybody rushed to the bathroom to do what they needed to do, because we in the woods, nobody wanted to poop. Nobody wanted to poop after those 2 days up there. And the 3rd day, we rushed back, man. I'll never forget that, boy. I'll never forget that. I'm like, man, he tortured us.
Yeah, but I think that camp brought the fellas anyway.
It
brought all of us together, because, like, for me, on my side of it, I'm from Newark. The oldest of 2 kids. My mom, she was disabled, so I was pretty much in the streets at the same time as in school, and trying to take care of my sister and my mother at the same time. So when I got to college, I still was on that, trying to do my own thing and move about and do college at the same time. Mr. Boatwright sat me down, had the long talk about, you got to make the adjustment, but you still got to stay humble and respectful to others.
Yes,
and that's what I always took from him, even going into law enforcement. It's a lot of stuff that goes on within that field. But like somebody mentioned about giving chances, I was given a lot of chances coming up, getting caught by police for this, that, and the other, and got chances. Then when I got to doing the same thing, I rewarded a lot of people with those same chances that I was given. And then coming to find out, I used to go to Marv and like, hey, Marv, I need you to do this for me. He on the bench. I just show up in the courtroom. He'd see me. Then he'd talk to me afterwards. I just look, he'd know I'm there. Then later on, he'd call me, yo, I'm ready. I tell him, like, yo, give so-and-so a chance, because I need this done for a certain individual. But at the end of the day, it was all about staying humble, staying respectful, and being a man, and just owning up to your word, being it within law enforcement or with our kids or with our friends. And that's what I cherish most about Mr. Boatwright. Like, he taught all of us how to cherish each other, even if we don't see each other that much. Being the females, like my girl Kim, we all had so much fun down there, and we all still care and respect each other today, and happy to see each other when we do.
Yep.
So that's my spill with Mr. B.
I have to go, guys. I just want to say I love you all. Mr. Boatwright, I love you. And also I'll give a shout out to Rep, because if it weren't for Rep being an EOF student, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today.
Right.
Get the rest of that hair cut off, bro.
Bye, everyone. Good luck to you, Bella.
Bye, thank you.
So I don't know exactly how much time we have left, because I know we're being recorded, and I think James, you said this was a 1 hour. So Bella, if you can
this doesn't have no limit. You guys can go into your, we're gonna cancel the subscription after this anyway, so we're good.
Yeah, please share any stories, life lessons, any like kind of, descriptions of like what you think his legacy would be, anything that you would like to say to him, all of that, open format.
Yeah,
I just want to say, Marv, you came a year after me, so you gotta wait for me first. I was
Go
one
ahead,
of the
doctor.
one of the tutors.
Yeah, you get your doctorate. See what happens.
Marvin,
And she's a doctor now.
Claim
we
your
got
elder
each other
card,
in
girl.
headlocks.
Claim
So
it.
She's
that's
also my
brother right
boss.
there.
She's my boss. She's my boss. So
That's my brother from another mother, though, and he knows that. I decided I was going to keep him a long time ago. But I just want to quickly say something that speaks to the theme about how iconic Mr. Boatwright is. And Mr. Boatwright, I just want to thank you for making every single one of us feel special.
Amen.
Every
Yes.
single one of us feel like we were the only one you were helping.
Thank you.
And while I would think about it, my father might have been a part of the creation of me, but it wasn't until I stepped on that campus that I saw a man who was a father figure. And before he even knew it, I had called him my EOF father, like from the first meeting, like that's my EOF father right there. And I just want to say thank you, because he's been a part of every big decision of my life, and not just my life. Most people on this call's life. We call, send emails, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Job recommendations. I mean, well, after 10 years after I had graduated, I was still getting job recommendations from him because all we had to do was call. And when I did become an EOF director, I really understood why he had such a warrior spirit, because there are so many people who don't want us on campus, kids like us. The school system was not built, especially higher ed, was not built for us. And so you need warriors like Mr. Boatwright and a lot of other people who are willing to go to bat for these students. And I really want to say thank you, because I know what it does to your health. I know the punches you take, and you're like a weeble wobble. And I know I'm aging myself by saying that, but you go down and you come right back up, and you just like, all right, I got this. You did this. We're going to strategically plan this way so that my students could thrive in this way. And he was really good at that. And in that, especially since all of y'all at TCNJ know how TCNJ, well, I called it that once they started paying me. I told them once they started paying me when I was working there, I would call it TCNJ. So I give it respect for both Trenton State College from when I was there and when they paid me as a professional. But that father figure was serious. Like for the men, I know what it means to you, and I'm hearing what you're saying, but for a Black female too, not having people like that who cared about you, who would have that conversation with you and tell you, like, I see more in you than what you see in yourself, was just remarkable to me. And Mr. Boatwright, I know you have a phenomenal sister next to your side. She, for the women in the room, was also someone who we watched, because we didn't have that many people of color like a Pat Coleman Boatwright on campus that we could look to, right? And she the same way took many, many, many punches, and they gave a lot of punches. Those Boatwrights are some bad folks. They gave a lot of punches to make sure that we crossed that finish line and graduated. And one of his special superpowers was that he knew every single one of our names, and not just our names, our GPAs to the exact, like he could tell you what you earned that semester. He could tell you what your cumulative grade point average was for that semester. And having come from a role like his, I could tell you that's a superpower right there, because you have a lot of students, a lot of moving pieces, and also that spirit, that superpower of, like, you can be invisible. He was invisible until he needed to be visible. So standing outside classrooms, that's where a lot of us got it from. Like, oh, Mr. Boatwright did that for my students. For us, so when we carried on that legacy, if we saw that a student wasn't going to class or something, you showed up at their class and you waited for them to come in. You was in the cafeteria and you waited for them to come in, because you was going to have that conversation. You might have tried to get past that. At the time when I know all of us was there, we had that little tiny building off to the side. We weren't even in a real building at that time. I think Sabrina got the real building, but you know, they found you. So if you tried to hide, they found you. And because we were such a family, but he made that Like they were very intentional. And Mr. Boatwright, I give you your props and I give your staff their props because you were a leader who gave a directive of this is how we gonna treat these students coming through the door. And that's the way they set up a sense of community for us. And that's why we were there for each other. And so I just want to say, I'm so thankful for him. I'm thankful for the Mr. Austin who sat there and taught me about finances. He's just an important part of this process. And he always, Mr. Boatwright always said, this is what you should do. And we listened. It was like, as soon as he spoke it, we listened. You might have strayed a little bit to the left or the right, but you came right on back to what Mr. Boatwright wanted you to do. And when I tell you that man has supported me, who would have known that I would have, just like Kim and Sabrina would work in EOF, who would have known that that would have been my passion? Who would have known that I would become president of the Professional Association of EOF for the state of New Jersey? He was so proud of me. He would just call me, he would talk to me, he would give me ideas. And then, like, as I'm sitting there, I'm not texting my family. They were already there. The last 2 days we had a hooding ceremony where they hood you. And then they have a commencement for the graduate students. And during the hooding ceremony, it wasn't until that night, but I had to work, and I work for Kane University. And y'all know my president, our friend, Dr. Repollet, was there. And I walked up to him in one of his few moments he had that was private. And I said, you would honor me because you're a part of my EOF family in a different way. You would honor me if you would put my robe on because I hadn't formally been robed by my chair or the president of the university. And we had this moment together where it was just like this understanding, like this is all both, this is both. This is how he would want us to be. And we had that moment. And so at that day, the next day, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for us to be called on stage, all these doctoral students. And I'm like, texting him. I'm sending him pictures of me and Dr. Repollet. I'm sending him pictures of me from whatever. And he's just like, I'm so proud of you. You would think it was like 50 years ago or 30 years ago, because he taught us, he treated us all the same way. You felt special. And so he's talking to me. And then of course he got jokes. So he started, you remember when such and such happened? I was like, oh my God, Mr. Boatwright was just thinking about that the other day. Because he kept it real, and he was a warrior and still is a warrior for the student cause and for students like us. So Mr. Boatwright, I just want to say, I love you. I love your other sister warrior, Miss Pat Boatwright, who has kept you, probably kept you out of trouble because he don't have a filter. And when I did work at TCNJ for 2 years, I was like, oh God, what's he gonna say? What he gonna say? Because he did not mind telling people at that college what he felt when it came to you messing with his babies. He was not playing. So I just want to say thank you, because without you, I probably would not have graduated college. And so I'm just so thankful for you and all that you put into us. I'm thankful for the students you work with in the New York school system who also know you as their EOF father before we were blessed to have you at Trenton State College. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. And I hope you continue to do what you do.
Barbara, on that note, you mentioned Dr. Repollet, and all of us here, well, one, I kind of feel dismissive because I think my entire life with Jim, the last 20 plus years, I felt like I was special to him, but it sounds like he made us all feel special. That lets me know that I really wasn't special, and that's just who he is. So I'm a little taken back. But I want to say that when we talk about giants, like Jim was never, ever dismissive of any one person. And what I mean by that is that I don't consider myself, I consider myself just a child of God. And I love being a dad. I love being a husband. Jim was probably the first man to really make me, this is after college, to make me feel like, okay, you're a great dad. You're being present in your kid's life. That is an accomplishment of itself. And Karriem, you also echoed that as well. So when we talk about giants, I'm not even put myself in that conversation. And I know, Stacy, you don't want your flowers now, this and that. But when we talk about giants, we talk, and Barbara, I want you to comment on this. Stacy just got the current mayor of Philadelphia elected. I'm not sure how many of us know that, but Stacy was, stop it, Stacy. Stacy had a lot to do with that, and she's shaking. I'm sorry, is there another Stacy Holland?
Yes,
Okay, no, no, there's not.
there's someone else.
Stacy had a lot to do with that. Karriem is an author, and he could barely read. Think about that. He's an author, and he could barely read. Repellent has basically taken on that Jim Boatwright stature because of, I don't call it nepotism. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He brought in people that deserve the opportunity to lead. Marvin, Barbara. Now Kelly's Special Olympics, I admit, but even Kelly Williams is running the athletic department. I mean, believe it or not, that to me says a lot, Barbara. You got your doctorate. Stacy's doing big things in her position. Bella here is what do you call it, social influencer. But Stacy's role up in Philadelphia, you got a mayor elected, Stacy. You help stop it, Stacy. You help facilitate that. That just shows you the impact that he's had. But in Rep's not here, Barbara or Marvin. I want you guys to speak on Rep.
Well, you go ahead, Marvin,
okay.
because you stayed with him, and that started your story.
So when Boatwright was recruiting for EOF, he asked myself, and some of you may remember Barry Barrington, musician, singer, he and I graduated from Arts High School in Newark. And, I know, Karriem, you went to Science High, Arts High School, right? Barry and I were being recruited by Boat, and Boat says, hey, I want you to come up for a day. We were seniors in high school, and spend a day with a student here. And that student will take you to class and, show you around, spend the time with him. I said, okay, all right. So Barry and I went up to the campus, and Boatwright, we reported to Boatwright. He told us where to go. It was in the towers, one of the floors in there. So we knock on the door, and we kept on knocking on the door, kept knocking on the door. And at some point out comes Lamont Repellent, pissed off. He apparently was sleeping. He's like, what the hell are you knocking on my door? Who the hell are you, And we're like, Boatwright told us to come over here. Yeah, Boatwright, and says, yeah, he says, you're going to be our, like our mentor for the day. We're supposed to follow you. He's like, what? Oh, he forgot all about it, He gives us his meal plan, the little card. And he says, listen, let me get dressed and just go downstairs, get whatever you want to eat. I'll meet up with you. This guy, he came down real cool and said, took us to no classes, just introducing us to a whole bunch of people. He's like, man, I don't go to class. So he told us, listen, I'm not doing well academically and what have you. And he tells that story now. He says his first year, he just wasn't focused and things clicked, and Boatwright was instrumental in that for him. And so, I met him at 17. I met Lamont Repellent at 17. And when I chose to go to Trent State, and he saw me on campus, nothing but love. And we became very great friends. And, he then started, you all know Darlene, started dating Darlene on campus. And, he just became very focused, very committed to schoolwork, to her. And they both did very, very well for themselves. And, one day he and I were on the phone just a few years back. I'm on the bench, and he's saying to me, hey, Marv, I'm being considered for this position at Kane. And I'm like, that's great, man. Congratulations. And he's like, listen, Marv, if I get this, man, I'd love for you to come join us, And I'm like, what? Like, I'm not a higher ed guy, I'm an attorney, he's a bar, but you have a heart, these kids, man, I need somebody like you, man. And so, I was reluctant, I had practiced law for over 20 years. And from sometime in the summer all the way through December, he called me constantly, asking if I would come on board with him, So at that point, he was the president, and he called me sometime mid-December. He said, Marv, man, and by the way, when I got sworn in as a judge, he sat right there. I have a picture of all the people in front of me. Barbara was there too, cracking jokes.
I was there too, bro. I was there.
Yeah, but you were stuck in the bathroom for a while. You didn't come out until after it was done, But anyway, so he calls me in mid-December. He says, Marv, he says, listen, man, this is the last time I'm going to call you, man. He says, tell me yes or tell me no. So he says, if you're going to tell me yes, I need you to start on January 4th of 2021. I said, man, that's 2 weeks from now. And he says, yeah, I need, you're going to, so I says, all right. I says, I'll do it, but you're going to have to get me a letter showing me I got a job because I have to put a resignation in today.
Wow.
And within an hour, I got a letter, and the next hour I sent the resignation in. And you know, it's been a great time serving at Kane, and great you know, one great thing is, you know, working at the university, students looking like us, seeing those young people really move to success. We just had our commencement the other day, and seeing so many of them that I know that I've pushed move on to some greater things. But to be frank with you all too, you know, I try my very best. And Barbara, I said it before, Barbara's my boss. He says, look, I'm gonna put you with Barbara, man. You take care of Barbara, Barbara take care of you, you both take care of me, you take care of the university, right? And so you know, I look at him and I do my very, very best while I'm there, because I want to make him golden. I want to make him succeed. I want to see him do great things, because he's doing some tremendous things for our community. And I see and for those who are around him, working around him, you know, he really, really gives back, and he really, really pays a great deal of respect and tribute to Boatwright for his own personal
heard that.
success
Yes, ma'am.
and his
Yes,
vision.
sir.
You know? So you know, he
Yes, sir.
gives, like, he you know, he's college friend, but he's college president. I always see him college president. You know, until you let me know he's college friend, then we could talk that way. But you know, he's extremely humble, despite the fact that he's in this position. He travels around, he gets all these accolades. And when cats like, you know, James comes onto campus, you know, he treats you with love too, right? You know,
Yes,
he
he
treats
does.
everybody with love, man.
Yep.
If you were part of his life and you came onto that campus, man, he's gonna treat you with the ultimate amount of love. You know, he doesn't forget where he came from.
That's
And
right.
again, you know, he contribute, you know, he's first gen guy from Carteret, you know, tough circumstances like all of us. And he takes care of those students just like Boat did, you know. He
And
really,
Bella, I'm going to do a public service announcement because we are state employees. So I just want you to know that we both came into our role as acting, and we worked for a year, and then we had to apply for our own jobs. But we did that. We went through the legal process. So that's a public service announcement, just to make sure that everybody understands that Dr. Repollet did everything on the up and up the way he was supposed to do it. But I will just add to what Marvin said, was that he is phenomenal at recruiting talent.
Yeah.
And so he is very clear, though, if he recruits you and he's there for those students, like he is like a mini me of Mr. Boatwright, but he's his own icon, right? And so he really cares about those students. He reached out to people that he knew would have a heart to serve this population, because Kane, if nothing, is it's an innovative institution, but it's one of those institutions like Bloomfield College, where if you couldn't get into other places, you could probably get into Kane. Right. And so it gives you that opportunity to, with the proper resources, to show up and show out. Like everybody on this call showed up, showed out. And when Dr. Repollet Lamont first started telling his story, because we all have supported each other, like a lot of us was in the room when Marvin got read in. A lot of us was in the room when then to be Commissioner Repollet was giving his testimony before that committee. We was all there like, yep, what you got to say to him? What you got to, and he answered the questions, and then he walked around to everybody and just greeted us with love. He was so excited that we were all there for him. But he's also very clear that he's there about the work of helping the community and helping the students. And if he brings you in and you're not doing that, he is also very clear that you need to find another space. He doesn't play around with that. And so I'm just very thankful to have worked with him, because before it was just following each other's careers. Like, you know, Stacy, you see something cool, you they doing such and such. Kim, Karriem was the first one that I knew of in our cohort that had a doctorate. We was like, what? Oh my God! I remember having late night conversations, sitting in the dorm lounge with Karriem and just waxing poetic as we did back in the day. And then with Steve in his position and just being able to, like, Steve just gave a nod to that social capital that we have as far as being able to pick up the phone and saying, hey, this is happening. Can you teach me? Because this is in my field. This is in my field. I don't know anything about it. Can you tell me what's about to happen to a family member? Like, what is a proper process? And people just taking the time, be like, oh, it's such and such. Let me talk to this person and make sure I explain that. Marvin, when I had to do legal stuff, I would call Marvin, like, Marv, do I need to hire a lawyer for this? Or do I do da, 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 da? And he was like, boy, don't spend that money on no lawyer. That's all you have to do. But this all came out again of the camaraderie and family that was built up when we went to school, but that was very intentional for that to happen so that these networks can continue. So I just want to say that working with Dr. Repollet has been a pleasure. He is very clear in who he is as a leader, and he does not suffer fools lightly, but he definitely recognizes talent. And if you are talented and you come in and you do what you got to do for these students, he's going to make sure that you continue to thrive. And I tell you, when I got there, he was like, okay, so when you finish in that doctorate, because I started a doctoral program, I was in Philly, I was at Temple University, and I was like, these people are passionate about their topic. I'm not passionate about anything. Mr. Boatwright told me to go get a doctorate, so I'm here to get a doctorate. And I'm just like, wait a minute. And so it was one of those things where it was serendipitous, but I just am so thankful that I finished my master's there. And then what's the first job I get? EOF counselor at Hudson County Community College. And then I just fell in love. I was like, oh, there was nobody to tell me, like a lot of us on this call were peer mentors, or we worked in the student center, or we had all these jobs on campus, but nobody was there to say, hey, higher ed is a profession. We see everybody working around us, but you don't know back then. Now it's a big thing, and we encourage students to get their master's degree in higher ed. But it just all came together. It's like all of a sudden I left that, I went to school. I left that, then I came and started working for EOF and stayed within EOF all the way. I think I worked at 4 different institutions with EOF. Came over when Rep said, hey, I need somebody who really cares about students. I see what you're doing. I'm always posting on social media about what I'm doing with our groups of students. He's like, I think you could do this, Barbara. And unlike Marvin, I didn't have to think twice. I was like, I'm there. Like, because I've been following his career, I knew I was walking into a space of what I wanted for students. Like when you have that hard work in there and a lot of what Stacy is talking about and what you do, I noticed that there was a huge disconnect between K through 12 and higher ed. And I have been teaching for over 15 years. I've been an administrator, but also a professor. And so Lamont was talking about those type of things, bridging those gaps. And he has done a lot in 3.5 years to bridge those gaps. And so it was my next. I had been praying about it, and he just so happened to call me. And so I just am really thankful for the type of work he does. And he is still very humble. But when I tell you, when he gets up for his presidential addresses, he always recognizes Mr. Boatwright.
Yes, he does.
He always has a seat for Mr. Boatwright and Pat Boatwright. If they can't make it and Pat will let us know, hey, this is a good time or this isn't a good time, you would still feel like Mr. Boatwright was in the room, because he brings him there with him physically or in spirit. So yeah, that's all I can say about. I can go on, but that's all I'm in that there.
Well, here's one of the things that's really important.
I'm sorry, before I let you on. 2 things. One, I want to say to you, Barbara, did you drop serendipitous in doing your poll just now? That was deep. That was deep, because I had to actually look it up what it meant.
You know what?
I do want to say, again, leading to Stacy. Stacy is also one of, to me, like I said, Jim made me feel special. And I always thought I had 2 PhDs, a master's, this and that. I have none of that, because like you said, he always made Kim or Karriem, Sabrina, just feel like it was all about you this entire time. Come to find out, he's telling you guys the same stuff. So I'll talk about that with him later. But Stacy, I will say, Stacy to me has, because of Mr. Boatwright, Stacy has always been one of his originals, even though we came in before him. Stacey, because keep in mind, even when I was old, I've always been older than you. Even when I was a MSU, this person, BSU, whatever, Stacey, you were coming to our rescue. You would say, hey, brother, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to do that. And that came about. I don't know if Jim was pushing our way or whatever, but as a woman, like I really didn't realize until you and Barbara and Kim, you guys are telling these stories, that I always thought he had it in for the brothers. I really did. I thought he had this relationship with us that was just profound. So I'm listening now, and Stacy, I'm sitting, I'm thinking like, well, that's right. Because when I was in undergrad, it was Stacy who said, hey, brother, come here, let me do da 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 da. Fast forward to 30 plus years later, Stacy's still calling on the DL, like, hey, call me when you get a chance. We need to talk. Stacy's always been like a cleanup pitcher that comes in the last 8, 9 innings and closes things out. So I will say this, Stacy has been one of us the entire time. She's a giant. And to get the current Philadelphia mayor elected, Stacy, on LinkedIn is blasted over. So just stop. I mean, I know the humility, modest part, board of trustees.
First of all, I'm gonna cut you off right here. Because we are being recorded, I did not get Soror mayor elected at all, zero zilch nada. Was I support her? Absolutely, but I did not get her elected. She got herself elected. I just offered to serve. Okay,
so
now we
humble.
clean that up. But here's the interesting thing that I just want to make sure is said, right? And I think, you know, Dr. Harmon-Francis pointed it out at the very beginning. You know, Boat is ground zero for all of us, right? And he has a special story for each of us, and he was the visionary. He saw us before there wasn't us. He saw all in our roughness and all the things that weren't formed yet. He knew who we were going to be. And he also knew that we needed each other in the process, that we were a part of each other's journey and story. And that is a special place and gift that we are all connected in different ways. I mean, so many times he picked up the phone, was like, okay, listen, Stacy, that brother Karriem, he's a really good brother, but he might get in trouble. So in the event that he does, I need you to keep him on track. Okay, Mr. Boatwright. Okay.
You sure did.
You know,
that
sister Kim, oh my gosh, Kim, he raved about you and the work you were doing at BCC and how proud he was.
Oh,
He said, I think you need to go work for Kim. Okay, well, I'll see if she'll hire me, but I don't know. But he every time he picked up the phone and he was like, Stacy, you need to do XYZ, it would land with, did you call Kim and ask her for a job yet? Because she's down there doing big things. And the same thing for Sabrina or Barbara or Marvin or Du or Lamont. I mean, he literally kind of saw who each of us were and then connected us and kept us connected. And that is a special gift in and of itself, right? That we can say that we're part of each other's stories. And yes, there's lots of people who aren't on the call, who also I'm proud to say that I'm part of their story, they're part of mine, just because of this man and the way he connected us. And so that in and of itself is the legacy, and how that's playing itself out in each of our individual lives and the kids that we, and the places and spaces that we operate in. And, you know, he will, as I said to him, there's not enough words in the English dictionary to tell you how much I love you and how much we honor you and how much we attribute to you. There's not enough words. And this call is only a microcosm of the lives that he has impacted. And how awesome is that my students can tell the story because I was there, and I was only there because he was there. I mean, talk about look at God. So I just, you know, wanted to point that out, that we could tell stories about each other, but it's all at the end of the day, ground zero. And to say, I come behind a Karriem Salaam, right? I come behind him humbly, very excited and very grateful. I come behind a James Boatwright. I come behind, you know, a Wadu. I come behind these folks who all laid a foundation, and the foundation started with him. So Boat, we love you, we honor you, we praise you, we adore you, and we are very grateful that we are because you are.
Listen, I'm usually I talk a little more than this. I've been trying to listen. But speaking of words, it really boils down the two most important are in the name of the program: educational opportunity fund, but opportunity, educational opportunities. I mean, it's like I've said it before. I think like maybe in a lengthy social media post, but he has gotten armies of families out the hood through education. And the beauty of education is so transformative in one generation. I mean, you know, my mother was on, and I'm not alone in this. My mom was on welfare. I was in a Head Start program, benefited from state entitlement programs. And for better or for worse, for many of us, our kids that's not our own children's experience.
That's
and
right.
in one generation, what this man was able to do, the other thing I didn't know was, I didn't know that Trenton State was the best public educational option in the Garden State. I had no
Still
idea.
is. That's crazy, and still is.
I had no idea. Even if you go by traditional metrics, GPA, SAT, whatever, I had no idea of these rankings, any of that. And everyone would say, you know, allegedly the best private option in Jersey was Princeton, and the best public was Trenton State. I had no idea. So it's just the impact that he has had on us and the following generation through education is absolutely priceless. And I see how many folks on this call he inspired to go into higher ed. I went into medicine and my path was lonely, but I didn't realize he was over in the biology building, in those science buildings, raising hell on my behalf. You know, you know, for whatever reason, I was able to form alliances with a number of the professors in those buildings, but I had no idea. He would tell me about the work that he was doing, and what he needed me to do was to perform. And you know, and thank God I was able to do that. And it wasn't easy. It was not easy. But the common refrain on this call is opportunity. You know, folks who we didn't have the advantages that our own children have. We didn't have those. But the advantage we have over our own children is we had hunger. We had, you know, we knew what was waiting for us in our neighborhoods. Okay.
If we didn't do it, we had to do.
Exactly. And so you can't teach that.
That's right.
Right? You can't teach that. But the other thing we learned was that is who we are. We are brown, black and brown people. We are from these environments. Those are the crucibles where we were shaped and we were molded. And we will never forget who we are and where we came from, because guess what? If we do, America will show us otherwise. Okay. Yeah. So it boils down to opportunity through education. And I wish I were independently wealthy, because I would drop so many treats on this man and his family. He wouldn't have to pay for anything. If I had it like that, and hopefully I think this effort is in the works, a scholarship in his name, because I'm so inspired by my family on this call who've gone into higher ed and who are doing the Boatwright work for their generation. And right, what he did for us, they've paid it forward. But I believe there is an effort. I want to say Doug is involved with it, Doug Smar, and starting a scholarship. And maybe I shouldn't be mentioning this, but but I believe that effort is underway. So, you know, again, education or opportunity through education, and it's just priceless. It's absolutely priceless.
With that said, I have to run and get these kids something to eat, but Karriem, very powerful, absolutely correct, you know, in the sense that without these type of opportunities, without this, I would not have advanced. And my mom told me when I was a young boy, about 6 years old, that, you know, and I was in the projects for 20 some odd years. She says, this does not have to be a reality forever. And that through education, and there weren't any other options. There just were not any other options on the table. And it was the long game. She told me all the time. She planted the seed and watered it and nurtured it and fertilized it all the time. She said, through education in this country, you could do whatever you want. And I knew that didn't mean stopping at 3rd grade or 8th grade or anything like that. But I wanted college. And I asked, I knew my mother couldn't do it. I asked my father, can you help me pay for school? I didn't know about scholarships and, you know, I didn't know about those things. And thank God and thank goodness that, you know, these opportunities came my way for me to be able to fulfill my dreams, my desires. And as a result, just like you said, I had the opportunity of professional schooling, you know, and I had the opportunity to be on the bench. I had the opportunity to give my kids outside right now in the house, you know, and got the pool. Sabrina knows. Sabrina's been in the house many times. Barbara's been over here too. You know, we got a dog. The fridge is always stacked, always packed, you know. They never go hungry, you know. I used to open up the fridge when I was a kid and I had nothing, you know. And so these kids, like you say, and I was hungry, just like you talk about.
You would open it, it would echo.
It would echo in there, you know, all that. The only thing I could pull out of that is the cold, you know, that's all, you know. And so I'm very appreciative for the education I received. And one thing I wanted to say before I left is that, see, being part of higher ed now, from this perspective, and working with student retention, one of the biggest things that's a factor with student retention, keeping students to persist at school, is their sense of belonging. And so he not only made each individual felt like they belong, but he, like you said before, he connected all of us. So there was this web that we all were part of, where he not only took care of us, but we took care of one another.
Right.
And really, the
we didn't want to
reality
fail
is,
each other.
no, the reality is this call could be filled with so many blocks, it would be ridiculous, because that's just how many people he's touched. And we all know when we get together, we see one another, it's all love 30 years later, you know, because of what that one man did for us, you know. So many of us didn't leave that school, you know, many of us stayed despite the difficulties that we all had. And other individuals like Austin made sure we had the financial aid packet, and you know, we had Butter who took care of some things for us, and so we had a lot of great support. But it started with him, and I pay honor to him, because, you know, without him in that position, doing the things that he did for me and you as well, he was a father figure to me. He guided me in many ways. He taught me many things outside of my classroom experiences, you know, that shaped me to be the person that I am today. And a person that always wants to give back, you know. So I see myself in some small way as a Boatwright on my campus, where I could touch students and I can make certain that they move forward and they have the same great success that I had.
Marvin, you mentioned Barbara and Sabrina being over your house. I've never gotten that invite.
And you're not going to come over. You're not going to come over. Listen, listen.
Before you leave,
I think he had a picture of you on the door that said, "Don't let him in."
Yeah, I got a picture on the door. Shoot on sight.
Shoot your shot.
On sight. I tell the kids. No, go ahead, brother Karriem. Go ahead.
to amplify what Marv was saying, all my brothers and sisters who are in higher ed, if you have Black and brown pre-meds, please recommend this book to them, The Pulse of Perseverance.
Can you text it to me, Karriem? Can you text it to me?
You put it in the chat, Marvin.
Oh, you did. Okay, thank you.
And these brothers were basically like EOF students. They struggled on the SAT, the MCAT board exams, but none of that matters now. They're all physicians. Like that Jay-Z song, you got 99 problems, right? But, you know, they had every reason, 99 reasons to quit, and they did not. And I find that's why we're in a state of crisis in this country. There aren't enough Black and brown doctors, and there are fewer Black male doctors than there were in the late 70s. And it's because a lot of folks, it's that sense of belonging. It's that sense of belonging and not being, and folks not believing in you. But I recommend this book for everyone, and please recommend it to your pre-meds, because it'll show them students just like them who did not quit.
So Karriem,
persevere.
Before Stacy and Barbara, I want to get your perspective on this. And
I gotta
Mark,
go.
You got to go, Mark. That's fine.
Yeah, I gotta feed these kids, man.
I definitely want to get your, because I think this is a conversation I've had. I'm sure Stacy, you've had, Barbara, you've had, Lamont has had, many of us have with Mr. Boatwright.
Love you, Mark.
Love you all, bro.
Love you too.
Be
Big
good,
brother.
my brother.
Brothers, all right.
Hi, thank you.
And thank you, James, for setting this up.
Oh, absolutely, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Marvin.
Much love, brother.
How different is the EOF program from when we came through to current EOF program? And almost fast forward, TCNJ versus, how different is TCNJ to King University right now?
You're on
You
mute,
gotta
Barb.
unmute yourself, Barb.
She got a doctorate, but she's still special.
Whenever I have to do Zoom from my phone, I am challenged.
We told
I'm
you.
challenged, but I put it in the chat. I do have to go. I have a lot of family up from Georgia and Florida. As Steve knows, we share a family member, but that's so extended we ain't gonna get into that now. But the Trenton State College, now the College of New Jersey, and King University are very different. They're both prior to Lamont arriving, were part what's called the NJAC. They're the New Jersey state colleges and universities. However, TSC, as you know, Trenton State has just they've had an interim president because the former president that was there brought in change that I do not think, and Stacy and you, James, would probably know more about this, change that was not welcomed, because the College of New Jersey is, as an alum, I love it, but it's elitist. Only the best of the best can get in. The one of the better schools that's in that same type of small liberal art type of atmosphere would be a competition at Ramapo College of New Jersey. I deal a lot with data, and I'm looking at retention rates, and the College of New Jersey is one in the NJAC conference. They are one of the highest as far as having students graduate, because you can retain students, but you don't want them just sitting around and being on the 7-year plan. You want them to graduate eventually, right? And so now King University, the big difference is that we've just pulled ourselves away because we are an urban research institution, and we're about to be a Research 2 university, which will now take us into working with like Montclair State and NJIT. And so we're going to be different. We're not going to be that small, that state college anymore in that sense. So we are very different. And EOF, let me just say this, it has been consistent from the time that before the Jim Boatwrights, the people who laid the foundation. We're probably coming up on our 55th anniversary, I think, Sabrina, that they have changed their tactics for today's student. Like, you can't do like what Kim would sit there and be one of the guards. Like, did you finish your sign in, sign out? Did you finish your time? Because now students have phones that distract them. Before, we didn't have that. We would go into that library and either you read a book, talked to a friend, and worked on a paper, but you didn't have all the distractions that you had. So we have had to change our methods. However, that basic building family, is the extension of family is what we also call EOF. That's very much a part of the core of who EOF, who we are. And Sabrina is quite young, so don't let any of those grays in her hair fool you. But that's a part of being an EOF director, and Kim knows it, that you go to battle even today. for students coming from underrepresented backgrounds, and that's for the ones who make it, sadly, because there's such a high turnover rate for K through 12, and especially in their high school years, they don't even know EOF exists. So that's sad with a program that's about to be 55 years old. So I leave y'all with that. Again, love you all. I'm so sorry I have to go, but I can't just have my family sitting around after they flew up here. So y'all take care. And I know Sabrina will be able to finish answering that question. And I look forward to the next podcast, because knowing James, there will be one.
Take care, Doc.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
You can go ahead and talk, because it's going to take me a while to just figure out how to get on.
You know, I'm not in higher ed, so I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer this question. But
Okay, then next.
My quick fantasy, though, it seems like the students, it seems like the folks of our cohort, if we had to apply to TCNJ now, I'm not sure we would get in.
Nope.
And I think the EOF student from our cohort would probably go to community college now. You know, again, I'm not in higher ed, but it just, there seems to have been a frame shift, you know, and I'm not, I wonder what the mission is. And the only EOF program I'm familiar with is TCNJ, because I'm an alum, right? We're alums, and I'm not in higher ed, but it just seems like, I don't know. I don't, it doesn't seem as familiar to me. It's not what I'm used to. So, and it was a little alarming. I've spoken at the summer program, alumni, career fair, career night. I've done that a number of times. I've done the keynote for that. And you know, the shame on me, the student body is almost unrecognizable. I mean, so, you know, anyway. But fam, it's hard for me to pull myself away, but I'm going to have to. I love y'all. We love Boat, and you know, EOF has just been so instrumental in our development and our life trajectory. So,
Karriem,
yes.
isn't it amazing how James pulled us all together, and he is yet to tell his story, but he waited until everyone whittles down to the point of, I gotta go.
I was going to say the same thing, Kim.
Come on, James, what's up?
I've tried to get him to say that he wanted to talk, and he told me before, no, this is for everybody else. I'll tell my story to him another time, but please go ahead and say something.
You better than all us, man. We need to hear.
Oh, I am better than all of you. I am better than all of you. No, I will say my takeaway, and it goes back to what I said about you, Stacy, is sort of like the like she said, ground zero. The takeaway is that we were all there for each other during undergrad, because although I was Stacy's senior, Stacy came to my rescue numerous times in undergrad. And unbeknownst to me, and I think Stacy will admit this, that Jim was probably the common denominator. So Jim has always looked out for us, even when we didn't know it. I think I have so many Jim Boatwright stories, memories, but the one, Karriem, believe it or not, the one that I'm really proud of is the one that you mentioned in your bio. It was Jim who let me know that, I underscore this, let me know that, listen, man, you're a dad, you're present. Because I met him looking for a father figure. And he said, that's one of the most extraordinary things, what I love about you brothers. And he always said, brothers, that you guys are present. And to me, that has always been something that I appreciate, the fact that none of us are perfect, but the fact that you acknowledge that, you know, hey, I'm a father, not just a dad, like I'm present. I appreciated somebody tell me that. And that was important to me, and it still is. So I've had to yeah, I've acknowledged that. That to me has been one of the things that I really love about. I'm like, hey man, don't discount what you do as a dad. Thank you, Kim. I got. It's gonna come back at you, Kim. Trust me. It's a boomerang. It's coming. You won't see it coming, but it is a boomerang.
Well, on that note, it feels like, James, thank you for being so thoughtful and listening. You know, the fact of the matter is Mr. Boatwright is going to be totally thrilled
I
over
think so,
this
Stace. Agreed.
video and pulling us together so we could tell him how we love him and appreciate him and how he has created this very intricate community. And this is only a small pod of the community. The community is quite large. And the impact is even bigger through each of us. And so really do appreciate you for being so diligent, being that son for him that he really wanted and needed. And the fact you check on him so much really does mean a lot. And thank you for keeping us all together too. So I too have to sign off, but I just want to say peace and blessings. I am so excited to be a part of this community. And Karriem's going to feed me at some point in the future. I don't know when that will be.
Right around the corner.
Tracy, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, thank you guys all so much for sharing.
Thank you, Bella.
I learned a lot, and I'm so glad that I got to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Bella.
You know, it was really you who did everything.
She really trust me. Trust me.
He just sent
have no idea.
messages.
Yeah,
That's
trust me.
it.
Bella was totally fully prepared for all of this. But like I told her, I said this will be shits and giggles after everything that you put together because just who we are. Like, because we know each other. I've only known Sabrina for like a couple weeks. And I felt so comfortable telling her to get off of Metro PCS and get Verizon because she wasn't getting any of my text messages because she just got Metro PCS.
Oh
I think his keys are too small. He wasn't putting the right numbers in there.
And he can't see them either,
He
Sabrina.
can't see
Oh, yeah.
Well, it is what it is, bro.
Friends like these, right? Friends like these.
Yeah, but I'm going to sign off.
All right, guys. Love you all.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay.
Bella, you could have a whole podcast with several episodes, as you can see. Take care, everyone. Be
Bye,
safe.
thank you.